better not easy.
Right? And Romans 1 is very much like this no holds barred sort of like boxing match, right? Having this understanding of what is actually going on when you're encountering God and when you choose to follow God. Another thing, I think of these things because it's our audience, but it's also, I've watched The Chosen a bunch. I love the line when he's talking to Kaphne, who is Rama's dad, right? And he says, because Kaphne doesn't want to follow him, and he says, I ask very little of those who don't follow me, but I ask a lot of those who do, right? And that is very true for God. Like, he's asking this of us because we're choosing to follow him. And if we surrender to him, then this is the standard to be upheld, right? But you can choose to walk away and say no. Again, doesn't mean your life is going to be better.
Right.
And just because you follow him doesn't make it easy.
Right.
But having that understanding, I think, as Christians, it's the phrase that I think of the most is, you now have no excuse, right?
Yeah.
You have no excuse now because you know the truth. You know what is happening, right? So let me read this. So Romans chapter 1, I'm going to be reading specifically 22 and 23, but let me start on verse 18. So chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God's plan, for what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immoral God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and reptiles. So again, we could go further in this, and there's so much to this that we could break down, but just 22 and 23 is kind of what I'm focusing on, and mainly 22. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. And I think this so much encapsulates what we've seen in today's world, right? Like you talk about all the time the movie Idiocracy, right? And I've actually never seen that movie, but I understand the premise of like the world is just like becoming so intelligent and so wise in their own thinking, in their own ways, that everybody becomes an idiot, basically. Yeah. And the world is just like doing what it wants to do. And it reminds me a lot of like the Book of Judges, right? Where everybody is doing what's right in their own eyes. And here, like it's very clearly labeling exactly how people do that and what the consequences are of people that do that, right? And we didn't really get into that yet, but this verse, claiming to be wise, they became fools. It's like, of course, in 2023 we can see that, and we can see where they've traded out God for these other things, right? Of these other idols that have come, even though we may not have a statue that we pray to or we sacrifice to, we do, right? Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah, and so that is, I don't know, it's just one of the most powerful verses, I think. But again, going back to that one line, he says. First, what they know about God is plain to them, and they have no, and they can see it through everything that's made. But again, so they are without excuse, right? So for me, that is so important. But I have a lot to talk about on this one, but if you want to jump in, you can.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. I didn't write it down, but I did write some that were like very, very similar. Yeah. Because it's not just a one-time thing, one-time phrase that he says, right? Like that the word says, right? Where we try to be so intellectual, we try to be so smart. I'm going to intertwine mine as well. Is that okay?
The next one?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Just so that we can hit on it. So this one says, therefore, this is Colossians 2. And I highlighted 6 through 8, so I'm going to read that real fast. Therefore, as you have received Christ Jesus Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk in him, having been firmly rooted and now being built up in him and established in your faith, just as you were instructed to do and overflowing with gratitude. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception. So similar, right? According to the traditions of men, according to the elementary principles of the world, rather than according to Christ. So,
yeah, I think that's more of a specific, like, prescriptive type thing, but yes, it's an example of what he's talking about more vaguely in Romans 1. Yeah,
right. Where we should be, well, he's saying, like, it's so evident that God exists, right? It's so evident. So don't. Therefore, God delivered them to the desires of their heart. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. So, like, in this, don't be captive through philosophy and an empty deception. Like, claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of immortal images resembling mortal man, birds and four-footed animals and reptiles. Like, we're worshiping things that are
not valuable.
Not valuable at all.
They have no power. They're not blessed. Like, yeah. Like, all these things for sure. And for me, it's like, I think, like, starting in the beginning of the verses that I read, like, I had this revelation one time when I was walking into class. So I went to Southeastern University. It's a Bible school, for the most part, pretty solid, but some weird stuff here and there. But, I was, regardless of that, I was walking into class one day, and it wasn't even like, some spiritual class. Like, it was a children's ministry class, I think. And so I walk into class, and if you can imagine, you walk into class, and there's these tables that are kind of like in rows, just all the way back, and there's a center aisle that you can walk down, and you can find a seat at any of these tables, right? It's a pretty small classroom, maybe, like, I don't know. It's just not very big. But I walk in, and on the very first table to the right, as I'm passing it, I see paper, right? And it's folded into the shape of, like, 3D stars, right? So someone has made these, like, origami, like, paper, like, puffy stars. That's what they look like. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then immediately it hits me. Like God speaks to me in certain ways, And a lot of times it's through these ideas that I have or these thoughts that I have, like, just quickly, like, God will be like, I need you to look at that. I need you to pay attention, right? And so for me, like, instantly it hits me, and I'm like, that was made, And I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to guess, right? I didn't have to, like, convince myself that this was created. And then I thought about everything that we see in the world and how much more intricate everything else is, right? I know that this light bulb is made by man because I can see that it's made by man.
Creation has a creator.
It has an identity of man that's on it, right? I can see the lettering that's on it. I can see the design of the bulb itself, right? And everything has that, right? My skin, my eyes, my nose, my mouth, my taste, my smell, like the animals that I see, the dog that I have, like all of it is very intricately woven, and I can see that it has to have a creator.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind, right? Nothing just orders itself like this.
Right.
That's not how the world works, right?
Right.
But these things are ordered very specifically in the way that they are to work and function in the way that they are. It's not just happenstance.
Right.
And so for me, like, that is what Romans 1 is talking about. They have no excuse. Because why? Because they can see it all around them. The people have known that God has existed since the dawn of time because the evidence is everywhere. Right? Yeah. And then even further than that, God went even further than that for me. So, like, for me, the reason why I love Israel so much is because of the evidence. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so I get lost in this. Like, I was just watching a video of this carving from the 2nd century, like right in between second and second and third century, right? So only about 100 years after Christ, right? And churches at this point are being heavily persecuted by Rome, so they're literally having to have church underground, right? Like underneath the ground in caves in different areas, right? There's an inscription in one of these caves, starts with a cross, right? Like a crucifix, a cross, and then after that is the name Jesus, and then after that is the word present, and so the translation is Jesus is present, okay? And then at the bottom of it has another crucifix that came later because someone else found this later on. Like it's still an ancient one, but later on. Yeah. And so it shows that the church was meeting in these caves.
Yeah.
Not only that, but this is archaeological proof that Jesus was existent, right?
Yeah,
and that he actually was a person in history and everything else. So for me, like, that kind of proof is like God went above and beyond. He did not have to give us that. He did not have to give us the temple and everything else that we see in Israel.
Right.
And yet he still did.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so for me, like, because that's for people like me who are like logical thinkers and we're like trying to figure all this stuff out. And it's like, I want to know as much as I can, not necessarily in the scholarly sense,
right?
But I want to feel and touch and taste and see and know that my God is real.
Yeah,
and I have, you know, and I see that proof over and over and over again. You know, I think of things like this may put me in hot water, but I think of things like the Book of Mormon, and it's like there is zero, not even one iota of proof for the Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, that hurts my heart so much.
Yeah.
Not that it's not true. Like because there's no proof, I can fully move it away.
Yeah.
You know? But it hurts my heart because I know so many people that are following this ideology. And I wonder how much they know. And I wonder how much they've looked into it or how much of it is a tradition for them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that hurts my heart because truth is so important.
Yeah.
And it's so evident. And it's like, man, like, it just hurts my heart to see it, you know? And all of that is claiming to be wise, they became fools.
Yeah.
Even in Joseph Smith.
Right.
Even in these other things, right? Like, claiming to be wise, they became fools. Claiming that they knew the truth, they created a fabrication, right? It's like, man, that hurts my heart, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. That was good, babe.
Hey, Brandon here. If you want to check out this full episode, you can do that on patreon.com/thesnipelife. This is the best way to help us to support what we're doing here on the Better Not Easy channel. Thank you very much.
So just remember that following Jesus is better not easy.